Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I am standing on a yoga mat. If you are without one, just find a place in your house that's got some carpeting, or maybe you've got a nice sturdy rug, which I'm also standing on top of. I just don't want you on a surface that's too slippery or too slick, or a rug that's going to slip out from underneath you. I have 2 yoga blocks. If you were without those, a very good substitute would be 2 thick books. And I have a folded blanket, which is just the folded blanket from my couch. You might use the same, or a beach towel, bath towel. In fact, it's kind of fun to get creative and just pluck things from our house as props. So pillows, cushions, things like that can be really great to use. We'll start today in child's pose, and I do want to guide you a little bit. Child's pose is often taught as sitting on your heels, and for many of us, that's just not going to work in terms of bending our knees, knee flexion. So what you can do is walk your hands forward, maybe curl your toes under, perhaps use your folded blanket underneath your knees. I think that using a block that's sort of like something to aim for and supporting myself on my hands can be a great place. You could rest your forehead on your block. If you are of the ilk where sinking your hips towards your heels feels good to you, you can still use that block if you want to, cushions if you want to, like I said, but let's create a little place, a little cocoon for us to start our practice that doesn't feel like, gosh, I got to get out of this. Maybe our mind feels a little bit like that because we're so used to doing, and when it's time to be, that can be a little uncomfortable. It's okay. It's uncomfortable for all of us to just get still, but it is important. So let's try together. And let's stop so that we can start. You might say that at the core of this practice, which will also focus on our core, is turning the arrows of attention inward, working on getting still and being instead of doing, and also our breath as a way to land where we are. So experience as best you can every inhale and every exhale. Let that become louder to you than an incoming text message or a to-do list. Shift onto hands and knees and let your props go off to the side. We want to get our shoulders over our wrists, so you're not too far forward, you're not too far back, so shoulders directly underneath your wrists. Push the ground away. Already you start to feel some work in your core. Curl your toes under. It could stay here and be super effective. Maybe you take your knees and hover them off your mat for a moment or for a bit, and then let's traction our hands and feet towards each other, whether you're hovering your knees or putting them down on the ground or doing some little combo platter of knees up and then down. And then let's place our knees down. Take a second. You can shake out your wrists, do whatever you need. And we'll do that one more time. So maybe you just stay here and really activate your arms and legs, or we hover those knees. We're still breathing. Remember, the breath, the inward turn, the calm, those are the core of this practice. And then bring your knees down and lower yourself onto your belly. Once you're on your belly, arrange so that your forearms are parallel to the 2 sides, long sides of your mat. Press into the tops of your feet. Let your kneecaps lift. Make sure we're not collapsed into our shoulders. So there's a little karate chop of our forearms down, and then traction your elbows towards you. You'll be tempted to do a lot of this with your chin jutting forward. Let that stay out of the mix. And then lower down and inch your elbows toward you like a centimeter, just about an inch towards you. Curl your toes under. Push into your arms and lift your chest off your mat. Then lift your belly off your mat. Think about lifting your hips off your mat. So you're here in a forearm plank with your knees down. Option, just like we did with our hovering knees on our hands and knees, to lift your knees off your mat, maybe. And then bring your knees down, your thighs down, your hips down, your belly down, and let it unravel into a sphinx. Press into the tops of your feet. Feel those elbows draw towards you. One more time. Curl your toes under. Karate chop the ground with your forearms. And then using the strength of your core, lift your belly off your mat, your hips off your mat, maybe your thighs off your mat, and perhaps your knees off your mat. Remember, you're still breathing. 3 and 2 and 1. And then if they're not already down, gently bring your knees down, thighs down, hips down, belly down. Roll over onto your back. Once you're lying on your back, I'm going to ask you to sit on top of your hands. So the back of your head is on your mat. You're sitting on top of your hands, and then snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you. Your knees are bent, your feet are on the ground. We'll try to straighten our legs up to the sky. This is already a lot of core work, don't you think? So feel free to keep some bend in your knees. Try not to let your shoulder blades wing out to the side. And then just bend your knee and tap your bend your knees and tap your left toes down, and then lift those up to the sky, and then tap your right toes down and bring those up to the sky. Left toes tap, and we bring them back up. Right toes tap. That's option 1. Option 2 is lower your left leg down and bring that all the way back up. And then lower your right leg down and bring that all the way up. Lower your left leg down and bring that up. Or left toes is great. Right leg down and then back up. Let's do each side 2 more times. It can be the tap of your toes. It could be the whole leg moving. It's right leg lowering and back up. Left leg or left toes down and back up. And then one more time with our right leg. And then bend your knees and place your feet down. Lift up to come off of sitting on your hands and roll back over onto your belly. That might be the hardest thing we do all day, is getting ourselves maneuvered all the way onto our belly. Slide your hands back now. And instead of winging your elbows out to the side, let your elbows brush against your ribs. Remember when we were doing Sphinx, I said you're going to be tempted to do it with your chin. Let your chin stay parallel to the ground. Traction your hands like we did our forearms, and let it be that your shoulder blades move towards each other. We just felt that against the ground lying on our back. We tucked them underneath us. Let that happen here. Activate your legs. Press into the tops of your feet. Let your kneecaps lift. And then very, very, very carefully lift your hands to hover off your mat. This is core work. Our core is not just our front body, it's our back body, which is what we're now feeling a little hum into, and our side body. So we are like an apple core is what our core is. Now place your hands down and curl your toes under. This will be that front body core. Elbows are still not winging out to the side. They're next to us, and we'll come in one chunk to all fours. It takes quite a bit. From here, tuck your tailbone first. Let's do this. Tuck your tailbone and then lift your tailbone. So we're doing a little bit of cat-cow here just to figure out where we want to go. Tuck your tailbone and then lift your tailbone. Keep lifting your tailbone with your knees bent. Push into your arms. Down dog. Lift your hips way up and back. Let's step our feet as wide as our mat and be on the balls of our feet. Press into your arms until you feel back body, side body, front body lengthening. This has got some core work to it too. You can keep your feet this wide or step them hip distance. It's not better to be hip distance. I'm going to opt to keep my knees bent. You might do the same, because what I don't want is for you to try to straighten your legs and round your back. Walk your feet forward to your hands. We are hip distance and parallel. Slide your hands up, inhale. Glide your hands down, exhale. Then we inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and we'll stand in our mountain. So mountain pose, palms face out. Our core work is really so that we can stand tall, so we can wear this work that we do on our yoga mat out into the day, out into our lives. Let's take a moment and place our hands here on our core. So maybe thumb on your bottom ribs, pinky is like close to your hip points, and then just notice if there's a little bit of this going on, jutting those ribs out. And let's try to move our hands towards each other, but really feel that our central, that apple core feeling is happening. And as we do that, grow tall out the crown of your head. Being tactile, that's a fancy way of saying being hands-on, for me is really helpful to figure out what I'm trying to get to. Let's keep this and float our arms along our side and imagine that we're standing in line at the supermarket this tall. Could you imagine? Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs, shins, or maybe down to your ankles. Glide your hands up. Stay here for a second. I know you don't have two sets of hands, but if you did, could you imagine them placed on your ribs right now, trying to keep that midline nice and firm? And then bend your knees deeper. Place your palms flat and step back to down dog. Remember, we have to really press into our arms. Lift your hips up high. Stay on the ball of your foot. Remember when we had our hands on our ribs? Let's imagine that we're still doing that here in our down dog and take it with us into plank position, shoulders over wrists. Bring your knees to your mat. Those are further back than when we did our little cat-cow tuck. And then with your elbows brushing your ribs and pushing the ground away with that core nice and strong, lower all the way down onto your belly. Uncurl your toes, keep your elbows nice and snug, and gently bring yourself into cobra. If you wanted to, you could lift your hands for a moment and feel that back body kick in just a little bit more. Posterior chain strength. Palms flat, curl your toes under. Keep your elbows close to you in one chunk, all fours. Then lift your hips up and back, and remember, it's as if we have two sets of hands and we're still pressing our hands onto those ribs as if we could. Walk your feet forward to your hands. We're hip distance and parallel. Slide your hands up, inhale. Glide your hands down, exhale. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Then we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, or shins, or ankles. Slide your hands up, inhale, bend your knees deeply, palms go flat, we step back to our downward facing dog. Now, this is a little bit of a trick question. Are you ready? Come into plank position and then bend your knees so that your knees hover. Don't collapse into your shoulders, and then gently bring your knees to your mat. Elbows brush your ribs as we lower all the way down. Uncurl your toes, cobra pose where we might hover our hands off the ground for that posterior chain. Then place your hands down, curl your toes under. We come in one chunk to all fours, and then we'll lift our hips up and back into down dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands. We're hip distance and parallel. Slide your hands up, inhale. Slide your hands down, exhale. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Now we'll shift our weight onto our left foot and bring that right knee towards our chest. Then do the same to the other side. Shift onto your right leg, bring your left knee towards your chest. Go side to side like that, just a little bit. We're having to use a different sort of core work to bring that knee to our chest. Now, shift onto your left foot, bring your right knee to your chest, or option to come onto the ball of that right foot. And now, arms wide, thumbs to the sky, turn to your right. There's balance, of which I apparently don't have very much, but we're also using our side waist muscles, our oblique muscles. Now unwind, step down. Let's make it a chair pose for a moment, and then stand into our mountain. It's a lot. You're balancing, you're using muscles. Now we will bring left knee into our chest as we stand on our right leg. Arms go wide. Remember, you can come onto the ball of that left foot instead, and then just use those side waist muscles and any balance you can find to turn to your left. Unwind, let's make it a chair pose. And then stand into your mountain with your palms facing out. Let's return to our chair. And then once we're here, arms wide, we'll turn to our right. We're not going to let that left knee swing forward. So let's try to sit it down and be as specific. In fact, you're welcome to bring your hands back to that waist, to your ribs, and just turn and feel, oh, look at those muscles working, right? That's what we're interested in. So waving our arms around, making big movements, not really what we're interested in. I want us to be specific, or as much as we can be, to these waist muscles. So if you have your hands there, you're going to know. And then if you want to extend your arms wide, you're welcome to do that. Let's bring it down the middle, stand it up, and float our arms along our sides. Ready for side 2 of that? Chair pose. And then arms wide, and we turn to the left. And that just gives us a sense of direction. But then we'll refine it and bring our hands onto our waist, and then just feel our waist turning. So obliques are these muscles that you can feel turning you. Those are important to our apple core understanding as well. And then you can extend your arms once again if you'd like to. Unravel it to chair, and then stand it up once you're there and float your arms along your sides. Let's get our 2 books or blocks, or even wander over and use the arm of your couch if that turns out to be handy. My blocks are about a foot out in front of me, and they're tall, and I'm doing that on purpose. Now, let's take chair pose to launch this. Hands to your thighs. Make a long spine. You could even take your hands back onto that midsection. Just feel like that's intact. I know what's wanting to happen there. Take your hands to your books or your blocks. Stand on your right leg. Extend your left leg off the ground back behind you. Now, I know that probably we need to keep our hands on these blocks, but you could even kind of see, like for me, if I just place my hand there, I'm like, oh, that's right. I need to remind this to wake up. And then you might just stay like this, or make a little prayer underneath your heart. Now we've got balance, we've got core work, we've got all kinds of things at the same time. We'll step our left foot down, make it a chair pose for a moment, and then stand up and float our arms along our sides, palms facing out. Chair pose to launch it, and then hands to your thighs. Lift your heart, keep this length, fingertips onto our blocks or arm of chair or whatever we've got going on. Stand on your left leg, and then extend your right leg back behind you. I like the idea of just taking one hand and kind of feeling like, whoop, am I firing in that midsection? And then you can stay just like this, or you could bring a prayer underneath your heart, and we'll find balance, and we'll find trunk stability and all kinds of things at the very same time. We'll take our hands to our blocks, step down with our right foot, come into a chair pose, and then stand it up. Arms along our sides, palms facing out. Chair pose to launch, hands to thighs. Lift your heart, hands to your blocks or the arm of your chair or sofa. Stand on your right leg. Left leg extends back behind you. Remember those obliques? We invite them to this letter T party now. Left hand stays on your block. Right arm swings to the sky. You could even take that right hand, brush it across that midsection, and see if you can wake up those obliques a little bit. Not because you're being mean to them, but because you want them to say, hey, I'm here. I'd like to inspire you. 2 moments. Unravel your right hand down, step that left foot down, chair pose, hey, let's stay here, and bring our hands into a prayer and just upright it and turn. Now, again, you can use your hands on your midsection if you want to. If you preferred your arms wide apart, you could do that again. Let's lean a little bit forward, and instead of hooking, let's stay here where we're using our obliques. But now as you do this, you might remember like sometimes when you hook that elbow on the outside of the thigh or inside of the thigh, and really see if you can use your muscles without leverage to arrive at that twist. And then down the middle, thumbs to the sky, stand it up, and we pause and digest a whole bunch of information in our bodies, kind of in our minds too. Chair pose, hands to thighs. Lift your heart. Hands to your blocks. This time we stand on our left leg. Our right leg extends back behind us. Now we invite those obliques to this party. Right hand stays down. I'm taking a little brush of my left hand across my midsection and then left arm up to the sky. We're just doing the best we can. Remember, we're inviting, we're not scolding our obliques. And then we'll unravel and step our right foot down. Chair pose, hands in a prayer. First, just upright, turn to your left. And there'll be a sticking point where you can't really, that's the range of motion without leverage is what that's called. And we're still going to leave the leverage out, but we'll hinge a little bit so that we know what we're aiming for. It'll be like the familiar terrain of when we do use leverage. And then just see if you can convince a little bit more of a twist because we're interested. You could brush your hand across that midsection, see what you find. Then it's chair pose down the middle and we stand up and we float our arms along our sides, palms facing out. We can move these blocks. Let's move them to either side of us, just off the side of our mat so they're not right out in front of us. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, shins, or ankles. Slide your hands up. Palms go flat, step back to downward facing dog. Once you're in down dog, lift your right leg back behind you. This is some pretty intense core work. Step that right foot forward. You probably need to help it along. Take your 2 blocks or books and frame that right foot. Now first, know that you can stay right here. Perhaps, as part of our trunk stability, you take your arms alongside your body, and then let's let our palms face down. So it's a little bit like when we did Sphinx pose, we can feel our collarbones. Like when we did that cobra pose, we've got a little tiny bit of an upper back bend. Then place your hands onto your blocks or books. Let your left hand remain and your right arm go to the sky. Remember, we've done a couple of these now, and then you can let that left hand hover for a moment. So you just, and actually take your left hand onto your left ribs and rotate them. So we're just playing around. We're getting familiar with our own bodies. Unravel, take your 2 blocks off to the side, palms flat, step to down dog. Stay here if you'd like to, or come into a plank position. Bring your knees to your mat, lower all the way to your belly. Once you're there, uncurl your toes and bring yourself into a Sphinx pose. Then lower down. Come through all 4s in one strong chunk. And then it's down dog. Our hips lift up and back. Lift your left leg once we're here. Step that left foot forward. Remember, there's quite a bit of core work, and you might want to help it along. Then take your 2 books or blocks on either side of that left foot. Here we are in our lunge. And then you could stay here, totally fine. It might work for you to take your arms alongside your body, palms face down. We imagine, remember we did all that without a lever twisting. Imagine that there's a mat underneath your hands, the ground beneath your hands, and then just smile your collarbones. We're feeling trunk stability here. And then we'll take that into our obliques. Right hand down. You could take left hand and sweep it across your body as your left arm goes up. You might hover that right hand, and maybe you once again remind those right ribs to rotate towards the sky. And then we'll unravel, move our blocks out of our way, off to the side, palms flat, and we step it into our downward facing dog. Shift it forward into plank. Remember our very humble beginnings. Bend your knees, hover those knees above the ground, or feel free to put them down on the ground and wait for us there because we're all about to go there. Knees down. You thought I'd never ask. Then, once again, slither into your Sphinx pose, just like we did at the very beginning. So here we are in our Sphinx pose. Curl your toes under, oomph into your arms, lift your chest, lift your belly, lift your hips, lift your thighs. Maybe keep your knees down or lift your knees off your mat. Then knees down, thighs down, belly down. a little medley of where we've been. Roll over on your back. This one, however, is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to roll over this way so I'm easier to see. Once you're lying down, bend your knees, place your feet on the ground, snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, and now hug your right knee into your chest. And then slide your hand on the back of your right leg and see if you can convince that right leg to go a little bit straighter. If you can't, that's okay too. Stay here or slide your left leg straight, and now we're in a sweet little stretch for our right hamstring and even the front of our left thigh a bit. Bend your left knee, bend your right knee, and cross your right ankle over your left thigh. This is plenty. You don't need anything more than this. You might reach your right hand through the space and hug either your left hamstring or come across the front of that left shin. And then some of us will benefit from taking our block and putting that underneath our head because it can feel like a pretty far way down to the ground there. And then let's just find a nice place to soak, to get still here in a stretch. After a lot of core work, I threw some curves at you today. Let's settle into stillness. Unwind and place your feet flat on the ground. You can keep the thing under your head if you want to, or maybe better yet, take it out for a moment. And then we'll straighten our left leg and hold on to that hamstring. And it's great to just stay like this, or if you'd like to, you could straighten that right leg out. So some place where we find just a little bit of stretch here for a moment. Then bend your right knee and stamp that foot. Cross your left ankle across that thigh. Left hand might reach through the space. You could hold the hamstring, hold the shin. Maybe you trot that block back underneath your head a couple of moments in our reclining pigeon. And then it's our Shavasana final meditation. So unravel, place your feet on your mat, snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, and then extend one leg and the other straight, or keep your knees bent if that's more comfortable. You could close your eyes here or just soften your gaze, but this is our rest and digest. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation as long as you would like. If you're ready, bend your knees into your chest. Maybe you're there already. Roll gently to either side. Please take your time coming up to any comfortable seat. That could be cross-legged. That might be seated on one of your blocks. And then let's just take a moment for gratitude, which I think really is the core of this practice. I'm grateful to you for taking this time to adventure with me into our bodies, minds, and spirits. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.